Let me call to order this Mayor Commission work session. Today is Monday, January 13th, and the time is 10:03. And hope everyone had a good weekend. All right, so we'll start with the annual public art report update from Sabile Cantal. Did I pronounce your last name right?
It's pronounced Cantal.
Cantal, excuse me.
That's
Sabile
all right.
Cantal.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Thank you for coming today to the session. So because I'm about to end my 5-year master plan, I sort of mix this up between the last year's activities and through in the 5 years so you could see how this program has evolved over the last 5. So as you know, the city's public art program, Art Life, aims to bring those direct art experiences to the public. And to start off, to sort of set the content, American for the Arts was one of the largest national organizations, put out a study, the largest study actually done. And some of the takeaways, and this was a national study, shouldn't be a surprise to you. Arts and culture drive tourism. You know, not everyone has equal access to the arts, which plays into the public art role. That arts and culture unify communities and they add value to our community. The Palm Beach Cultural Council did a sub-report, and out of that, it was specifically geared towards the city of West Palm Beach. And in that, I took a couple of key takeaways from that. That 87% of people agree that art inspires a sense of pride, neighborhood, or community. That 89% agree that they would feel a great sense of loss if this was no longer available. That 83% that agree that it's an important pillar from within their community. So I'm setting the context for you. So one of the things that happens when we're looking at, when the committee of 9 and myself, and I'm working with either the public sector or the private sector in realizing a public art project, is we ask these questions. How can art further enrich the public life? How can we distinguish West Palm Beach as a premier destination for contemporary art? How do we continue to provide these opportunities for artists? And those things I bring up, they're not part of the criteria, but these are fundamental questions that are constantly being asked. In the last 5 years, the city has realized over 55 artworks, installations, and temporary projects. It's a significant amount, and you can feel the impact in the last 5 years. So I've broken down the presentation so it's easier to digest the amount of things that happen. I've broken it down for the percent for art, temporary projects, things that happen in neighborhoods and parks, local artists initiatives, what I call public artist markers, the talks that have happened, collaborations, and the public-private partnerships. So percent for art. We recently, I'm sure all of you know, unveiled Fred Eversley's Portals. This is the largest public-private partnership the city has had. This is the most impactful and significant art piece the city has, and really put us on the map. I mean, this one, lock, stock, and barrel. So I want to take you through the fact that even though these are just beautiful, gorgeous pieces that this iconic artist has produced, it took a ton of people to realize this. It started with the idea of what to do in this very public setting for a private development partnership to happen, and it happened to be that this park was also had historical significance. This took over, I backtracked, it was almost a 3-year initiative from beginning to end. It took not only the creativity of this artist, and this evolved tremendously, but also all the people on the private side and all the people on the public side, the city's various departments all working together to make this happen. Another one that's come through is through Brand Atlantic, and if you haven't had the chance to go to Banyan and Olive, I greatly encourage you to get your tennis shoes on and walk over there. This was a piece, and you can see in the background a piece from the Anya Apartments, that the Brand Atlantic people specifically brought in an art consultant, and they were very intentional on where they wanted to place their public art. And it actually makes a very surprising and grounded visual effect. So as you're walking either from Oliver Banyan, you hit a corner and all of a sudden you see this pop of art. It is 9 by 9 feet, and it makes a point. And it looks, I have heard a lot of people say, it's like, oh wow, New York. So I don't know, I think that says a lot. This one, if you haven't seen it at night, that's another one that you should see. This was actually a local artist, Ben Leone, who created Orchid City. And he did so as a tribute to his city. It was known, the city of West Palm Beach at some point historically was known as the Orchid City. A new piece that just came is by the Laurel. It is off of Laurel, and you have to sort of find it. It is publicly accessible. There's a walking path and you can walk around it, but it isn't one of those highly visual ones that we normally see. So as you're walking past the Laurel, you will all of a sudden come up to, even though it's 13 feet, it sits on a pillar, so it's actually almost grazes the ceiling. And if you need to experience it because the pictures don't do it justice. It looks like it could topple over, but it isn't. So, you can see the artist's hands in it. They're not smooth. They are shaped by the artist. They are heavy bronze that are painted with the artist intentionally putting her hand in it. They're quite stunning. Another piece, Amy Lincoln. This is another piece that has a surprise element. And one, if you're walking down Rosemary, you might not find it going, which way? North to south. But if you go south to north, you will chance upon it. It takes up an entire wall. If you look at City Places apps, you will see that they do a lot of yoga sessions. I just currently did a panel discussion there. Another piece by Brand Atlantic, which is an immersive piece. They brought in Wheezy, which is a mural artist out of Milwaukee, and she worked with a female team. And over a course of 2.5 weeks, they created this very large-scale, two-sided, I think it's 140 feet long on both sides, mural that what will happen, and this, again, very intentional. They redid all the pavers, Brand Atlantic. There will be a restaurant that is situated on the corner, which will open up into this pedestrian alleyway. They will have lighting, and so you will be able to sit in this field of flowers. And when you go through it, you will see that the actual bugs and insects that they've incorporated on them are probably the size of your head. Icon Marina put in the Lighthouse by Emmett Moore, and you will access this point through a walkway on the side of their development, but it sits on the waterway, which is fully publicly accessible, and it looks great during the day, but if you see it at night, it sort of has this very light luminosity at the top, just like a lighthouse, but a more modern, contemporary version of it. Symbiosis by a Spanish artist, Glenda, was put in, and this is a huge piece. Again, it's hard to tell in these visuals, but when you get there, you'll see the enormity of it. And so what she's done is put water to earth and made a symbol of both those things coming together. Again, there was a lot of intentionality by Icon Marina to bring in the right artist for this specific site. And of course, 5 years ago, Yinka Shonibari was installed, and that would be our most iconic piece at that time. We were coming out of COVID. The background of this was happening during COVID, and then the installation happened, and it was the first public-private partnership that the program did. Public art in parks and neighborhoods. The Heart and Soul Park had Genius Loci by Nikisha Durrett installed last year. No, not last year because we were just 2023, excuse me. And it really was the last public art piece for this siting. And as you can see by the photographs, it does make a statement. The other piece that you see there was put put together before by Iveco One and Mass and Nomads, and it pays tribute to the history of the park. Nikisha Durrett, and this was a collaboration, both pieces were a collaboration with the Community Redevelopment Agency. A piece that just got put in on the north part of our city was by a local artist, and he was brought in to do a piece for Echo Lake Park. And the way it worked is, I'm very open to communities coming and contacting me. This 3 neighborhoods contacted me and said, would the public art program consider a piece of art for our passive park? We looked into it, and when I say we, I brought in other departments to see if a sighting could actually happen. With that, we started talking to them, and then we the committee decided, let's bring in a local artist. We found a local artist. We have found several, actually, and then we selected this one to go forth and create something. He worked tremendously with the community. He came in, he showed them different, he made little maquettes, and he introduced his art to them, and they were able to ask questions, and he did this all in person on site. And what came out of it was a piece he calls Ripples. By the way, this is 7 tons of marble. So that was Nestor Guzman, who's a local artist who works in marble. Marble is one of those materials that you often don't see happening. When he got the commission, he actually went to Italy, picked out a 10-ton piece of marble, had it shipped across the Atlantic, brought it to, he made a pseudo studio for it because it was so immense, and started hand carving this piece. The community was invited, and they did show up to his studio, and they could see the process of, and he walked them through it, talked about how he worked, and that one point where you see everybody bringing it down to hit that, that's exactly what happens with the Yinka Shanabari. That's what happened with the Fred Eversley. There's these fine points where it's like, okay, now we got to lock it in and make sure it stays. So I wanted you to see that because you can really see how this process started. And that was a little over a year. He worked pretty fast.
Before you move on,
sure.
Commissioner Peduzzi has a question.
One question about that. I find that fascinating that he purchased this marble from Italy and shipped it over here in such a single piece of marble. Is there anything on the installment that tells that or tells the story of because that's fascinating, I would think, to people.
So I think what we're going to do is we have a plaque and we're doing QR codes, and the reason QR codes are so much easier to then just give you all the information. And that will be part of it, like how it was sourced, what it is, because as I said, marble is not, it's a craft that, thank goodness, isn't dying, but not a lot of people work in it. It's malleable, but it's not.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Vito Davari is another one that happened during COVID, and this artist went through a competitive process, and again, he worked with the community for this one. This is during COVID, so his community process was virtual, and everything was virtual. He showed everybody. I constantly had to do community projects that way, and you know, we forget, but that's where we were 5 years ago. And this has completely been embraced, and they, when we finally installed it, we were at a point then when masks finally started to come off. Local artist initiatives. So during COVID is when the program started doing local artist initiatives that were very specific, because as the city was helping resources, businesses and local businesses get, I came to you and said, we need to help our local artists, and this is the first initiative that came out of it.
This is a documentary about a COVID relief initiative offered to artists by the city of West Palm Beach in 2020. It's called The Commons, 15 Artists, 15 Spaces, providing public locations around the city and funding for temporary art displays in order for creators to share their personal perspectives on the COVID-19 pandemic. My submission was a video piece about the ups and downs of my life during COVID and quarantine. I was selected as one of the artists, and we decided that my public art contribution would be this documentary. My project was to capture the 14 Commons artists, their projects before, during, and after completion. I started filming in October of 2020. With what began as a very isolated and unsettling year for me, I now had a reason to visit all the unique locations, to connect with 14 creators I'd never met before, and work alongside Sabile Welter, the admin of public art and culture in West Palm Beach. I got to see our artistic community in a new light, as well as the importance of public spaces, public art, and public funding. The Commons Initiative really made us all feel seen and appreciated by the city we live in. It gave us a reason and the means to create while many of us had lost our inspiration and sources of income. Places for our art to be seen while the galleries were closed. A reason to connect with new people and make new friends and collaborators as our regular social constructs had unraveled. I'm thankful I was chosen to participate, that I had a reason to create this piece and meet all the artists, their friends and families, see their studios, learn more about them and their work. I hope you were able to see the installations in person while they were up. If not, you can visit them here whenever you like. I'm excited to see what we all do next. I hope you are too. Thank you.
So the goal is to create the capacity for local artists emerging in experience to realize a public art project. And I say emerging in experience because there are a lot of visual artists who are highly experienced in their studio practice, but have never entered the public realm. And entering the public realm is a very different set of circumstances that you need to be prepared for. So we, the committee, having had this as a success, has continued this program, and it's now in its third iteration. So this was one that was Commissioner Lambert's area. It was short-lived, but it was such a beautiful, gorgeous piece. It was very Christo-like, and she created these flora and fauna scenes and then put it in these banners that sort of like floated over in Phipps Park. They were really a gorgeous piece. Another way to work with local artists, I work a lot with the CRA, and we created an initiative where artists could come together to create something specific for the Northwood Village area. This is Molly Aubrey, who in her own right is really moving ahead, and she created something very specific for Blum Park, and it's been embraced by that park. It's experimental. It was meant to be experimental. We didn't give it beyond 5 years because we wanted to see what would happen. Murals. So the next piece, murals are very broad in their definition and what they can do, but I'm going to highlight a few things that the public art program does, because murals on its own doesn't go through this program. So one of them, again, Commissioner Lambert, I'm really highlighting your area today, is Botanical Preserve. In this one, you can really see the process of what happened. This happened over a 6-week period to realize this mural. So on that one, we gave it a 5-year life also. It'll patina over time intentionally because it is made with metal that intentionally will, with the sun, change. The reason she did it at night, it was so incredibly hot during the summer months that the only way to work without frying everybody was in the nighttime. So, and it worked. She had a whole crew and made this gorgeous piece. Another piece that's just come is from a Portuguese artist, international artist, with the private sector who came in and said, you know, would love to help you put a new piece in the Chamber of Commerce and add fuel. This is On the Rise. Another piece that came through the public art program is with our local artists who created these. The two portraits are actually metal, and they're going to be coming down soon because the garage is going to be redone. So, and then they'll go back up. If anyone's noticed, the butterflies have been brought down while the garage goes in. I'd love to cover the entire garage with butterflies. I think that's the next move. And then this piece, again, another local artist and who was very specific with a genre and a cultural aspect of the skateboarders. And at the time when he did this, the Olympics were happening and skateboarding was part of it. And we had Palm Beach County local, I think there was 1 or 2 from West Palm Beach that were part of the Olympics in skateboarding. Temporary projects. We all know that, I think a lot of you participated in this last one, a community portrait West Palm Beach. So over 700 portraits were taken over a 3-week span when the team came out and photographed and met with anyone who wanted to participate. There are 200 portraits up in the wall right now. This is very temporary. Eventually they will be washed down. They also, excuse me, went over to the Northwood Village area, onto our community centers, and here's another shot of it. So they're at Phipps Park, they're at the Urban Living Room, they are throughout the city. There's a lot of art talks and collaborations that we have recently in the last 5 years put energy into making happen. Nikisha Durrett for Heart and Soul Park was part of a panel discussion, and to commemorate her piece, we had the Palm Beach Lakes High School Marching Band go down. There were 150 kids. They started at City Place. They walked down all the way down Rosemary. We gathered far more people, and everybody made it to Heart and Soul Park. I just particularly love this shot because you can see the Yinka too. I invite local artists who speak about their work. It's always better if the artist is there. And local artists love the opportunity to really engage with the public. You can see a few of them a few times. Recently, we had an artist, Teresita Fernandez. She is a major internationally recognized artist, and she has been commissioned to create a site-specific piece for reimagining the Visitor Center, which is that Play Art Connect project. And this was in the on the Great Lawn area, and it was incredibly attended. We had over 150 attendees for a Monday afternoon. Again, this is the piece I was talking to you about, where a panel discussion was created right by the Amy Lincoln piece. I mean, it is a narrow space, but they are using it, not just for talks, but for yoga too. So, looking ahead, we have the Play Art Connect, the Teresita Fernandez. We have Arts at Curry, which I'm developing right now as how to integrate arts into that project. We have 811 South Dixie. We just formed a public-private partnership with them. We'll be working to create a site-specific piece. We have the Commons, 5 Artists, 5 Spaces, heading this way. We have Nora, Mr. C's, the Berkeley, Flagler House, 1901 North Flagler, Avernia Hotel, the Celeste that's already come through to the commission, the Spruce that's already come to the commission, the district as well, and Forte Residencies. There is a mix of internationally recognized artists with our local artists in this bag. And this is just a quick sampling of what's coming your way. The artists for the Commons went through a competitive process. They've already been selected. The theme is Endless Summer. By March, you will see new artwork in the courtyard. In the library, we have art pieces that are happening in the elevators, the 4th floor, Jose Marti Park, and Howard Park. And these artists, again, they range from never had done anything in the public realm to having a huge studio practice and never been in the public realm to somewhere in the middle. And it gets me to collection connection.
Before you move on, how were those artists selected? Was there a competition?
Yes,
or?
there was a call to artists for local artists only. It went through the Palm Beach Cultural Council. That's what I used to send out the calls. It was very specific. You had to show proof of residency. And what it was a 90-second video of you, the artist, telling the committee something of interest, of what it is about your practice. Oops, didn't mean to do that. What it is about your practice. It was, you had to submit a resume and proof of residency, which I saw, but the committee only saw the 90-second video. And in big, bold letters on the call to artists was, be creative. So there were a few of them who took that instead of being as straightforward. And that's how they were selected.
Local artists, Palm Beach County, local artists, West Palm Beach.
Local artists defined by the code, Palm Beach County. From these, there were 10 artists that were selected. Of the 10, the committee selected 5. So my next project and collaboration, and it's not moving for me. I must have done something funny. Oh, is Collection Connection. So on your, and I did it again, on you, in front of you are passports. This is a collaboration with the library. I collaborate with the library a lot as well. And this is something that the librarians brought in hopes of sort of integrating the arts and what the library does. So we're 2 public-facing programs, and we have merged ourselves together to create an opportunity to see the collection, to see all the temporary and permanent installations, but also to get you back into the library and rethinking things. So what it is, and I should tell you, you're not keeping this, you have to come to the launch party and participate. So we're having a launch party on the 12th, excuse me, and where we introduce this. What it is February, thank you, sir. February 12th. You grab your passport, you look at it, you can go to any art piece in the city, you flip through any prompt you want, you fill it out. After you fill out a few of them, you go back to the library where you got it, and you get a stamp. After several stamps, you get an enameled pin. After your enameled pin, at the end of our quarter, we have another session where everybody meets and you can exchange your ideas. And then we do a raffle for all those who actually had all their stamps. And the raffles were provided by other cultural institutions. So one for the family is an annual family pass to the Science Cox Center. Another one is a pass for 2 on a higher level to the Norton Museum of Art. So, and that is a way to connect the art in the library and make that happen. So you can see they're really fun, they're engaging. You scan what scans is the art life map. So it takes you right to the map, and you can just choose whatever you want. And the map constantly gets regenerated, excuse me. And so that's another collaboration, which I'm very, very excited about. So as we move into the next 5 years, I have as I said before, I have a master plan that I'm working on. There'll be revisions to the ordinance, not sweeping, just tightening. As I work with different entities, I constantly make notes of things that perhaps aren't clear enough to people if they're repetitive, or things that we've overlooked and they need to be put in, and things that just no longer are applicable. For instance, I'll be requesting that the $15,000 that usually happened for the Public Art Committee it's no longer relevant. We have the Commons Project, and we can just go to commission and request those funds. So it's outlived its purpose. And so before I end it, I want to read something that I wrote, that I actually wrote on January 6th of this year, which marked my 10-year anniversary at the city. Looking back to 2020, a year filled with uncertainty and change, the city's public art program rethought art's capacity to reach, to activate, and to impact our community spaces during a global crisis. COVID provoked monumental economic and social shifts, but also fertile opportunities to have vital conversations around many ideologies surrounding freedom, individual rights, equity, and identity. One immediate effect of the shutdown was that public spaces, both virtual and physical, became integral to our ability to safely gather, observe, and communicate. In that type of social dynamic, the role of public art became and continues to be increasingly central. Public spaces, collective areas that belong to all of us, allow for multiplicities of voices, ideas, and visual expressions to be exchanged, experienced, and enjoyed. The works that have been created over these past 5 years have been intentional in their relationship to place. They have contributed to the start of a new visual identity for the city and reflect the overriding ethic of the public art program. Identifying and producing public art has become increasingly collaborative between our communities, the city's workforce, and more recently, the public-private partnerships that have seen so many new works realized. The process of the civic commitment to public art is complex and involves many individuals to bring an artist's vision to realization. Holistically, these projects created by artists in all stages of their careers and whose sensibilities reflect the city of West Palm Beach allow us to see what is possible in our common spaces. At every step of this process, our mission is to bring direct art experience to the public. Personally and professionally, what I most love about the arts is they provide a forum for artists to exhibit the complexities of our differences through keen observations of our everyday lives. They illuminate the intersections of our diverse communities as non-linear narratives. In my role as the director of the Public Arts Program, I've had the distinct honor of working alongside talented and dedicated individuals throughout the city who champion the arts and understand that public art is central to our lives. Looking ahead, the program aims to continue to facilitate an impressive range of objectives that promote engagement and inspire reflection in the communities it serves. Moving into the next 5 years, we will continue to build, empower, and champion the arts as crucial driver of culture and as a critically important contributor to the identity of West Palm Beach. And that last sentence, I think I cannot emphasize enough. I think what's happened in the last 5 years is that we have come through the public art, had a visual identity. I hope you had noticed that a lot of the response of the public art has been our environment. You can see that most of this art is reflective. It deals with light. It deals with multiplicities of ethnic backgrounds and diversity. And so I hope that you take the time to participate in these. I know that, I don't always have the parties like everybody else does, but I do value the arts, and I see it as, the crucial driver that I speak about. Thank you for your time.
Well done.
Thank you for that presentation, Sibylle, and let me publicly compliment you on your role. You have brought such creativity and imagination to the public arts program, which I think you said it in your writing, is part of our city's identity. And it's been a pleasure to work with you and watch your mind work. I don't have a creative mind, so it's interesting to work with creatives because you all operate at a different level. I don't say a higher level. It's a different. But anyway, no, you've done a tremendous job with elevating this program. And I think that, and maybe you could talk a little bit about this, as we get more of these large-scale projects in our city, obviously they are obligated to devote a certain percentage of the value of their project to public art. But it seems that the quality of the pieces has, under your leadership, and I think you're pushing them, but you could talk more about this, has been elevated significantly. Can you talk about how those conversations go?
Sure. Thank you for the recognition, sir. So there's a lot of conversations that happen, and I do push, and I believe that there's no reason that we can't have the quality of art that we have been seeing. And this goes across the board. So the conversations I have with the private sector are just that. So they don't just come in with like, here's my artist, here's my art. There's a lot of discussions that happen in the background where I come to them and I say, this is where you're at in your development. Like, this is where you physically sit. These are all the other components that are happening around you. And then we start to have the conversation about their development project and how then I'm thinking, like, how does that deal with this project and that project and what I know is happening on the other side. And so I start to puzzle it and push it together. And we start talking about artists and what they feel comfortable with. Some of them have very clear ideas of what they're looking for, and in that sense I say, okay, let's open it up to, what kind of artists are you looking for, and at what level of their careers are you looking for, and what does your budget allow? And versus a smaller budget, which isn't really that much smaller, but where I can say, will you be open to bringing in a local artist? And we have now, by this circumstance, have enough local artists who are starting to really make their way into becoming that. And really, when I talk to a local artist too, I always say, what I would love to see is not only for your art to grow, but then you go somewhere else, another city, and make a commission there, and you say, I'm from the city of West Palm Beach. And that's when you know you've made the mark. It's not for us to like hold on to them, It's for us to, just like a kid, you get them ready and then you're like, okay, goodbye, do well. And then come back and don't forget about us. So I think it's a multiplicity of stuff. And then here with every department, I work with every department. I'm very close with the planning and zoning, the CRA, with the building department to ensure that these things happen. I work with the attorney's office. I'm constantly on them because I tweak all my contracts to make it so that that art doesn't get lost in what the realization of the vision is. So the quality has been pushed, and I thank you for recognizing that. I think moving forward, we're going to keep pushing that, but also elevating our local artists, and the Commons Project has been one of the key things that a lot of the community talks about, and also allowing the community to further understand how this process is so that they feel part of it. So I think it's multi-layered, and I'm going to keep pushing the envelope.
Well, I think related to that, it's not just the iconic pieces, but the work you're doing in the neighborhoods, I think is important. The Echo Lake project, you kind of talked me through that whole and how the community was so involved with that, and I'm sure there are other examples. So this program, yes, we have some nationally, internationally renowned artists and pieces, but the program is also servicing our neighborhoods on a more granular level, which is consistent with my vision of making West Palm Beach of opportunity for all. We're giving all our residents an opportunity to enjoy public art. I saw some hands, Commissioner Warren, and then Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you. I think you've seen me sitting here smiling the whole time that you were presenting. It's interesting how public art really is a contributor to making a city a destination. And West Palm Beach has certainly embraced that and has been just very forward-thinking in how we've approached art for our community, for our residents, for visitors, and really how that impacts even things like the bed tax and other things that we may not think of regularly. But I would love to take a moment to commend you, Sabile, as well as the Art Life, Art in Public Places committee, because I won't say that you're the best committee, because we have some great committees, but I may be biased, but there's a tremendous amount of work that the committee puts together, and they're very conscious of what they present to the commission for approval. I know that about 8 or so years ago, there may have been some concerns about how diverse our artists were, and there was a very conscious effort put into diversifying the people that were working with the city, and that was evidenced by the names and the work that you shared with us today. Later, there came a opportunity where people had a perception that there were not a lot of opportunities for the local artists, and there was a very conscious effort to include local artists and create a space for them to gain the experience that they need. And I know that the committee asks those questions constantly when the committee meets in order to talk about the projects that are brought forward. So this didn't happen overnight. This is a wonderful process. I'm happy to see everything that has been taking place in art. I could probably go on. I know that my colleagues have some comments. I'm not going to, dominate the conversation, but I do want to say that it's amazing the work that has taken place, and kudos to everyone that has been involved in ensuring that West Palm Beach has moved forward and is on the forefront. Because I know that other municipalities have looked to duplicate the work that we do in Art Life, and they've looked to us as a blueprint and model for how they expand their artwork. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery. Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you so much. I want to echo the comments that have been made. Sabile, we are extremely fortunate to have you in our city, and the word that I wrote down, Mayor, thinking along the same lines as you were, that folks who are creative bring a different type of temperament to the work that we do here and to government work. And I think I've always seen that in you, but it was definitely on display today. And I think that that's welcome as we talk about, you said, the multiplicity of diversity in our art. I think it's also incumbent upon us to have that within our staff and those who work and partner with us in the city. So thank you for that. I found myself getting a little emotional as I was viewing all of these images. And of course, some of that emotion came from the COVID video. Thank you for sharing that. That was phenomenal. But also just from some of the photos of the pieces throughout our city. And it just started me thinking about, cities like Chicago, LA, New York, who are internationally known for their art. And I just feel like West Palm Beach is on the cusp of that. And my question relates to, I have two questions, but the first one is about our public art ordinance. And, I know that 5-6 years ago it was new, or we refined it from what it was before and doing the percent for art. When we did that panel with City Place a few years ago, and the public art director for New York was here, and they talked about their budget, which is like astronomical compared to ours. But I'm just curious, can you share with us some feedback on how's our ordinance is, serving us, and any ideas for improvement in the future?
So we're going into the 5-year master plan. The 5-year master plan is getting what I call an upgraded sophistication, because the city's becoming sophisticated. And as that happens, so does the public art program. So it got relooked at, it's getting tweaked, and with that, the ordinance has to be tweaked. Not substantially, it's just little tightening here and there. One of the things that I'm going to encourage is, in that I'm researching right now, we don't have murals under us. So I'm working with Armando Fana to come up with recommendations that I will give the mayor so that he can preview that with his executive team. But there are recommendations, not just to say, oh, the murals now go under public art, but with the intentionality and the mindfulness that has to happen with everything I just spoke about. Like, how do murals as a visual element play within the role, the identity of the city? And so it can't just be like, okay, here's the process and go. It has to be really thought out. Like, how does it really work? And also, how is it work so it's transparent and accessible? So it's accessible to everyone so you can really digest it. Because what we don't want to do, and what I try not to do, is I do not make anything that is cumbersome. I don't like that, and I certainly I don't think anybody else does. So I want this, particularly this master plan, is just a map for an artist or a developer or a citizen to look at and go, oh, I get it. Okay, this is where I go. And it gives resources and all sorts of means of what it takes to get to where we are now and go further.
Great, great. I do have a second question, Mayor.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for bringing up murals. That does lead me to my next question, which is, we know the old adage, art is in the eye of the beholder. Mm-hmm. And there have
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Okay, you're right, beauty is in the, but I guess art falls into that. Thank you.
Own quotes. Okay.
Does the Art Life Committee or department, and maybe this is through some of the art talks you're having or the community outreach that you're doing, talk about that? Because I know that there have been some pieces that I won't even say sparked controversy, because I know that art sometimes the intent is to spark discussion and controversy. But as we go into parks and neighborhoods, there have been some residents and stakeholders who have had concern over some art content. And so again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It wasn't that they were not well done or well engineered pieces. It was just that wasn't to their liking.
So right now, if the private sector comes in and with their private property, their private funding, it does not go through this program. So you will rarely see something come through right now. You saw the spruce, because the spruce intentionally wanted to do it. It went through the Percent for Art, and so that's how you saw it. So right now, we don't have a say in anything that happens in the private sector. Private money, private place, they fall into the planning and zoning code. It's not a sign that advertises, therefore it's okay.
Thank you.
Do they tend to come to us sometimes and seek our
Yeah,
opinion?
they do. They'll come, they will send me an email or something, I'll look at it, but again, I can give my professional opinion of going through the process, but it doesn't go through currently, does not come through me.
I guess my question is, do we have any, and I don't know if it's a white paper or an art talk or something that could help individuals maybe understand that concept, or to, I don't know, just help to educate on, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that there are many different pieces of art?
Well, I think it's a little more intentional than that. That's a broad stroke. Mm-hmm. I would say that one of the recommendations, if it comes to the public art program for review of the private, would be that very similar to what I do with the communities that come to me that ask for art in their neighborhoods, you have a lot of dialogue. So out of that dialogue comes the creation of that piece, because it's now responding not only to the site, but the dialogue that has occurred between the community and the artist. So that is a piece that doesn't exist right now within the mural ordinance. And so that's a piece that if it went through, would be a piece that would be incorporated, just because I do it with every other, like I wouldn't take that away. And it's during that process that you really learn about the artist's practice, what their intentionality is about the site and what would fit. And you know, I bring up Echo Lake because they even came out when I had the contractor to ensure the exact space for the placement. We had a place, but they were like, well, can we be involved? And I said, come on out. And they did. Every time I would just say, I'm doing this if anybody wants to come, and they came. There was never less than like 7 of them, and sometimes there was like 20 of them, and I was like, whoa, okay. So they were really involved, and that's part of it. You have to, you know, and that's where you learn the language of art and the understanding of an artist's practice. And so then people can't say, I don't like, you know, I don't like this, I don't like that. Well, there are people who don't like, you know, peanut butter, I don't know.
Well, thank you. I would be in favor of bringing the mural program under the Art Life Committee, because hearing your process for engaging the community as these murals are facing our neighborhoods or in our parks, well, obviously if it's in our parks, it's under our program, but in the private sector. So thank you so much for your efforts with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Peduzzi, President Ward, and I know Commissioner Warren. So.
Thank you, Mayor, and I echo the comments of my colleagues and commend you for bringing such incredible art to our city. You know, I think it's fantastic that you could come to the city of West Palm Beach to go to the Norton Museum of Art and then go out to lunch and continue to see the same level and caliber of artwork that you can see in a museum. And I agree with the mayor's comment about the caliber of the art, you know, seems to have increased. I mean, obviously beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but some of these installations are absolutely incredible and things that you would expect to see at the Louvre or in some international museum of art, or just incredible. I remember the first time that I walked by the orchid installation on that building at night, and was like, oh, wow. I mean, it opens your eyes to kind of the beauty around you, and that it doesn't have to be in a museum. And I would just, you know, suggest that if there's a way to continue this and maybe make West Palm Beach a destination that people think of when they think of fine art installations that are spread throughout our downtown, and maybe create some sort of a passport system or whatever that has the different installations and about them, so that when you do wander throughout our city, you can look at it, or maybe have a website that has it that you can go to where everything is there. And you may already have something that I'm not aware of.
I'm going to show you something.
But kudos, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
President Ward.
Two comments along the similar aspect of like understanding and like where to go and see. I feel like you were working on something like that, but I think when you were talking about the QR codes, I was wondering how long it was going to take for you to implement that, because, you know, going even to the beauty eye of the beholder conversation, the one that's at Blum Park with the speaker that you didn't mention, if I wasn't paying attention to crab, I wouldn't have known what that was. And so I've had people be like, have you heard that noise? And I'm like, well, it's not noise. And the artist had this whole thing going on, and he collected all these different sounds. And when I explain it, they're like, oh, that's actually really cool. But you wouldn't know that. You're just hearing a noise, and you're like, where's that coming from? And then also to Echo Lake, that they enjoyed that so much. That was such a pride point for them. They absolutely loved that. Just standing there and watching them just appreciate that. I'm so grateful for everything you did, because they just love that installation. But to Commissioner Peduzzi's point, you know, if you're at Echo Lake and then you can, if you didn't know about Sunset Park, are you guys gonna work on, hey, you're seeing this piece now, but if you walk or bike over there, you can now see Sunset, or, you know, I was biking over the Middle Bridge and I saw portals, and then I was like, my daughter got excited and I was like, oh, let's go see the girl under the bridge. And so we kind of, you know, biked around there. So is there something like that where we can start seeing, hey, FYI, turn around and go this way and you could see that, or, you know, kind of similar to a walking tour?
I am in the midst of working on that. One of the things I just did was we started to update the Art Life page. And so now when you go here, you see the pieces, what's about them, you know, who is made by, the title, the artist, the year, the materials, the funder, whether it was % for art or not. And so you'll see them all here. And little by little, I'm working on this. I'm doing a temporary page, and this will lead to the next thing. But if you right now take your phone and go to the Collection Connection and you open it up to that and scan that code, that leads you to the Art Life map. And that's a map I'm working on. I think my next big project is going to bring in an outside source to really work on that app, because it's beyond, it needs a really dedicated one-person thing. So bring an outside person to really create that map. But right now you can go on there, scan it, and it brings you to the Art Life map, which then drops you into the exact location. And wherever you are with that app open, and you don't need to download an app for that, by the way, it'll show you all the artworks near the vicinity. So if you're at Jose Marti and you open it up, it'll say, oh, and by the way, there's this, it'll show you little red dots, and you can go to them. So it's a work in progress. We're really aware that, you know, okay, now we've got, you know, the documentation of it. I have a professional artist on contract who for the next 2 years will be documenting not only our permanent pieces, but as temporary pieces come, and the engagement with the community. And so that is happening also. So and I'm happy to say that I'm interviewing for a public art coordinator too. And so these things are like slowly coming to, because the next 5 years, a great art site, right, where you can do exactly that. You drop down, you're in an Uber, and the Uber driver says, oh, you got to check out all the public art, and you just go to this, and boom, it's there. You can tell visitors, the website will be ongoing. I think we have a really nice palette now that will get you to where you need to go to, and anything in between that, you know, that comes up between now and the next 5 years. We're going to start working on the technology part of it.
Commissioner Warren?
Thank you, Mayor. And you did, Sibile, speak about the QR code for the in particular, the piece from where the marble came from Italy. Mm-hmm. I do think that QR codes are absolutely the way to go, because you can update the information very quickly. You don't have to have anything that's permanent that you have to order a revision to. You can really modify that from a desktop, from a laptop at any time. So that's certainly a wonderful way to share information. I would love to see, I know that you're working on the master plan, the art master plan, and you're very conscious of it being foundational, but also being something that's a living plan that is able to grow with the city. Mm-hmm. So commend you for that. I would love to see where we can do something perhaps with our local high schools, the West Palm Beach high schools, to encourage art in those spaces. I think that we have great minds in our high schools, and art has not received the support that it once received. And if there's a way that we can do something in the next several years, I think it'd be great to think about how we can encourage that and stimulate that.
So currently, right now, I think the way to do that is to do a lot of outreach and have them involved, maybe as volunteers and stuff for right now. But the ordinance is set so that they're professional artists, and we do that intentionally because we're dealing with substantial funds. But I think there's a way to really partner, and you know, I try to partner and collaborate as much as I can, where they meet me halfway to say, okay, I can say, this is what's going on, how do you want to interact? I'm happy to do that always. And I'm an open door. I have artists, like, if you have a question, ask. Please don't think that this municipality works like the next municipality in its public art program, because we don't. It's a very specific program. And earlier you had said that a lot of municipalities look towards this public art program, and I do have a tremendous amount of questions asked my way, and I always say this, which is, this program was built with the city of West Palm Beach in mind. So you got to look at your city and grow it from there. You know, everyone is very different.
Thank you.
Thank you. Armando, I know you had something you wanted to say.
Thank you, Mayor. Armando Fon, Assistant City Administrator. So I had the pleasure of working closely with Sabile with the last master plan update, and we talk about all the new things that have happened, and it's all fantastic. But one thing that happens behind her, it's happened behind the scene intentionally because of her efforts, is the conservation of the existing artwork. We really didn't have a good program, or a program at all, I would say, to really maintain the artwork that is currently there. Some of it's been there for decades, and Sabile has done a fantastic job in putting a program together. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, how intentional we are now about making sure that our pieces are conserved.
Thank you, Armando. We have on retention a conservator, restoration, and maintenance crew. So the Martin Luther King Memorial actually just went through extensive restoration. It was brought back up to where it should be. I've done that with Jose Marti, and I've done that recently with Genius Loci. And what this team does is they review the art pieces, and a lot of the art pieces are on an annual maintenance program. So each piece has its own thing. Some pieces she touches once a year, others twice a year, and some pieces need quarterly. So that maintenance that I always ask about, I need that report from that artist or that manufacturer, because that I just hand over to my art conservator and we review it, and it's a constant thing. So her contract is a 2-year contract that just keeps going. And she is very science-based, but a lot of times we meet and she like points out little things, you know, and she's really good. And then I work with whoever it is, whatever that siting is, to ensure that. I cannot emphasize enough how important that piece is, that we all know that this program's funding is separate from the general fund, but within that, the 316 fund is a fund specific only to the maintenance, conservation, and restoration, and that's what it's used for, and that has been a game changer for the program's artwork.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you again, Sabile. Great
Thank you.
job.
I appreciate it.
Look forward to hearing more creativity and innovation coming out of your shop.
Thank you, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
The one thing I have under Mayor's Matters, Commissioners, I hope you all noticed over the weekend the recognition that we received from TripAdvisor as being the #1 destination. That is quite an accomplishment. And again, it's not anything that the city sought. I think based upon their database, the reviews, et cetera, we rose to the top, so that's pretty cool. That's all I have under Mayor's Matters. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? City Administrator?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Just want to ask Commissioners if you all have any items that you want to get scheduled for a work session, if you would get your list to me. So we've kind of gone through the list from 2024, so don't hesitate to get me your items. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? Okay. Well, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.